Hey there, IndyCar fans. This is Nathan Brown, your motorsports insider for the Indianapolis Star, joined by Conor Daly for the first episode of the second season of IndyCar Weekly, a close to weekly podcast that we plan on doing this year, continuing what Conor and Jim Aiello did a year ago, previewing and breaking down each of the 17 IndyCar races for this year. So I guess we'll just get started, Conor.
Jim's left us.
Yes, Jim is no longer here.
Poor guy, he abandoned ship, but that's fine.
And we're here sitting in the Indy Star sound studio, maybe a little bit fancier. We'll see how this goes. But excited to have Conor back this year, specifically with his much increased race schedule for this year. Some of it we already knew, 13 races with Ed Carpenter Racing, but I guess we'll let Conor fill everyone in if you haven't already heard about his other news for 2020.
Yeah, I mean, now I get to be full-time again, which is really cool. It's been a long road, I guess, so like having to watch races and all that. But yeah, Carlin's given me an opportunity to run the rest of the oval races with them in the 59 car. Max obviously, continues to kind of stay strong to what he feels like. He doesn't. I believe he said he doesn't enjoy the oval racing, and obviously he's going to do the Indy 500, which will be great. But yeah, happy to help out there, and happy to be a part of that team again. We started working on things last year, and I think we had a real shot at being on the podium and winning in Gateway. So I really want to get back to that track for sure, and to the other tracks that we started doing some things at. So yeah, it'll be cool, and obviously Ed allowed me to do that, which is awesome. It's obviously a weird situation. I can't really remember a situation like this in the past, at least recently. But yeah, it'll be we get to fight for points at every race, which is really cool. And the Gallagher insurance people are still supporting Max and I obviously in that car, the 59 car. So just to get the math right, it's all 17 races, 13 with ECR, 2 different numbers obviously because Ed will be in the 20 for the Indy 500 and I'll have a different number for the Indy 500, and then 4 oval races with Carlin in the 59 car. So it's a weird puzzle, but thankfully, it's all Chevrolet powered as well, which is really helpful. That's probably the only way it would have worked, which is really cool. So yeah, it's a nice little way to at least get that all out there before the season starts as well, knowing that we can start focusing on points all the time and get a good year going.
What were some of the biggest selling points that you had to either had to talk with Ed about or had to persuade him with? I know he mentioned it IndyCar Media Day back in February that he understood in some ways your desire to want to get in as many races as possible, being a racer himself. What was his reaction when some of this was starting to play out and you guys worked things out in the end?
Well, I think in the end, Ed was telling me, he's like, we would like to have you eventually full time, Conor, and I really appreciate that, and to be full time with Ed Carpenter eventually someday. I mean, that would be, I only get more experience by doing the whole season. I've obviously never raced at Richmond, and if I were to then somehow end up full time at Ed Carpenter Racing or anywhere else, it just helps me as a driver. So I like the way Ed thought about that. I mean, he's a driver, so he understands, what it's like to also be on the sidelines and watch, because he has to do it at the road and street courses, and then, get in on the oval. So it just all made sense. It was all kind of it was just a perfect fit. It is weird. I mean, my guys, I'm sure my guys at Ed Carpenter Racing were like, oh yeah, we're gonna beat you, and I was like, all right, yeah, hey, let's go. Like that's good. That's good competition. But it's cool to be in this situation. It's weird, but I know both environments very well. Now obviously Ed Carpenter's a new situation for me, but I've been with Carlin before, so that's pretty cool, and yeah, it's I'm just thankful to have the chance. It's been weird. I didn't really ever know if I was going to get full time again, and thankfully we're back.
I imagine you already touched on this a little bit already, but you spoke at length this offseason and even during the season about how difficult it was to drive for teams both on the Honda and Chevy side of things, that it was really hard to feel like you understood the car really well, that you were let in on everything preparation-wise for each of those races when you were switching back and forth. I figured Chevy had to basically be it, or something like this wouldn't work out. But how much do you have a sense of, when you switch over back and forth for some of these races late in the year, what that will be like as far as your preparation for two different teams for different races?
I think being with one manufacturer certainly helps. I think they trust me a lot more. It's hard because each manufacturer is trying to do, their own thing, right? There's obviously, everyone's trying to be secret and do development items and do secret stuff and stuff that kind of might help. And now being with one, they have, they can obviously share more with me. We can all work together a little bit closer. Which is really cool. And yeah, it's the only way it would have worked, I think, because Ed is obviously a very loyal Chevy team, and he's been with Chevy for a long time. And yeah, thankfully we were able to kind of connect the dots there. But yeah, it's just good overall. I think it's going to be fun. I don't start racing with Carlin until June, so like it's a long way before we actually get there. But like, I will be in their car at the Richmond Open test like in a week, so like 2 weeks. So that's that we'll already kind of get into the swing of things early, and I'll get a few laps just turning left. Thankfully before the Indy Open test with Ed. So yeah, it's just a good situation overall. Get to do all the testing I can do. Get to do all the running that we can do during the year, which is something that really I've never had before. So that's nice.
With Ed, I know he thinks a lot of you. You guys have had a great relationship for several years, and you've touched on that a little bit. Just seeing each other at the gym on a day-to-day basis. How confident are you that you feel like that could potentially be a somewhat long-term home for you? I know you were really happy when that news broke back in December. Just that situation there, the stability that they have, everything that they've shown in May. What are you most excited about, I guess, going into St. Pete in this season with that team specifically?
Well, they've done a great job. I mean, we all not sat down, but kind of got together in the shop just yesterday for a meeting about what we're about to do here in St. Pete, and the guys have put in a lot of work. I mean, both cars have been entirely rebranded, repainted essentially. The U.S. Air Force coming in, obviously they got a lot of work to do, repainting all the pit equipment, doing everything, getting new suits, all that stuff ready to go, and that's really cool. And I think they're excited. I mean, guys on this team, I've known for a long time, that I haven't got to work with before, but some of the guys I have worked with before, and that's really cool. And I think everyone's super motivated, and they really sense a lot of excitement. Obviously with Renus as well, because Renus is super talented and he's really quick. He's got this electric personality, young kid. The guy is so young, but he's definitely ready to fight for good finishes. So I do love this team. I would love to finally end up at a place where I could be for multiple years. That would be the goal. I don't want to be another one and done type season with a team, but yeah, we've got to do our job. We've got to go out and execute every weekend, and we've got to be able to bring home trophies and a lot of points this year. And that's the plan. We want to start strong, but realistically, I'm sure it's going to take me a little bit of time to kind of get used to what these guys have, what we've got setup wise, what we've got in general when it comes to approaches to the weekend. It will take some time, but obviously I'm going to try and jump around those those obstacles or barriers whenever you can as soon as possible. And we've only had a day and a quarter in the car, so Renus has had like 7 days of testing, which is really cool. I mean, it's good for rookies, But I'm still kind of getting my feet under me with this team. So hopefully we can get up to speed as quick as possible with with the guys.
I know you mentioned these last couple of years that you hadn't gotten a chance to do a whole lot of testing, but for the years that you did go full season, how different does it feel like going into this year with so little testing that you guys have been able to do? Obviously, we know that rain ruined a lot. Rain and low temperatures ruined a lot of things in COTA. Did you come away from that specifically feeling like you got a whole lot out of it?
Not really, honestly. We had a few different issues that day because that was just day one in the car for us. So and the track was still wet, and there was a lot of like I only described it as just like the weirdest day of testing I've ever been a part of. It was just part of the track literally never dried all day, and it was very strange to do that. But yeah, I mean, getting used to the aero screen as well for me. I mean, I had a lot of trouble seeing. We didn't have the visor that I needed for that time because I just it was just everything was hectic. So it was a weird deal. But Sebring was much more of a calculated real test day. We did the more laps than anyone, or at least me and Pato did the most laps that day, which is really cool. So we got a lot of running. Renus and I were both quick all day. Myself, I sort of messed up on our last new set of tires to try and kind of keep us up in the top three, which is fine. I mean, I'm totally fine with that in testing. But yeah, I think we made our way through a lot of stuff. But it's amazing to think that it's like, boom, all right, that's it. Now we're gonna go racing. So hopefully we can use some of what we got at Sebring immediately and sort of kind of start in a strong place, because Sebring all day, both of our cars were fast. So hopefully we can keep that trend going. But even Scott Dixon, I think, said it's weird to think like he's a veteran, but he's like I think he even said that there's been like not that much testing to do, other than what we had at Austin, and the rookies are running a lot. There's been people running a lot, Scott McLaughlin as well. So we see a lot of running happening, but a lot of us haven't got to do a lot of it. So it'll be interesting to see come St. Pete how that affects certain people, certainly the rookies as well.
When you drivers, you're looking at testing times at sites, how much stock can you guys even put into times when you don't know what other people are working on? You don't necessarily maybe know what tires are cycling through. Does that something that you guys put much stock into, talk much about, think much about at all?
I think a little bit, yes, but like in the end, absolutely not. It doesn't matter. I mean, at Sebring, there was a couple sets of 2019 tires and then 2020 tires, and those are very different. So people, certain cars like the Penske cars, obviously when you don't see them up front, you're like, well, what are they doing? We have no idea what kind of development those guys are doing. And we have our own different programs that we're trying to go through. So yeah, I mean, we obviously know certain people are going to be better than others at certain places at certain times. But it just, the most important thing is that when you show up to St. Pete, all that information that you did try and gain or gather through a certain type of testing program, you use that information as efficiently as possible. And then that's where it comes down to the teams and drivers working together to say, hey, we tested 20 different things at Sebring. Well, what's our top 3 things that we need to take to St. Pete? And every driver is going to have a different opinion because every driver has a different feel. Renus and I both have a very different feel for the car and what we like out of it already. But he's a rookie, so he's going to continue to learn more about the car as he goes, and I will as well, because with the aero screen, the balance has changed on this car. So we are looking for a different feel in the car because of the added 60 to 70 pounds right above the driver, which is definitely something that affects the car in a massive way compared to last year.
Mm-hmm. The aero screen, at least from my perspective, obviously haven't driven in the cars, but it does seem like the people that have some sort of issue have some specific complaints that bring to the table. It's not just no one in the series is still at the point where they just flat out don't like the idea of it. There have been maybe there are some, but I know we're still kind of getting some mixed messages about that, even heading into that first race of the year. And I imagine it will likely impact things a good amount and be something that drivers have to really teams make some serious adjustments to. And are there still any things that you are concerned or just don't feel like it's maybe performing in the way that you would like to be when you're heading into the first actual race of the year?
I mean, it is totally fine driving by yourself. Like the testing's been fine. You know, the little bit of rain running that we got to do in Austin, that was okay, but there was no cars on the track, and we had to stay under 100 miles an hour. And there is a lot of variables that you get tossed during this season, certainly when all the cars are out there together and you can't just pit because you're on a practice day or a test day. So I still have a lot of questions. I am not a huge fan of it, to be honest. It's very hard to get in and out of. I don't like I don't know, but I mean, obviously, you know, people are big fans of it, and that's totally cool. I mean, I'm happy to drive with it. I mean, it's actually been way better than I thought it was, so I'll definitely give it that. But it's going to be 80 degrees all day, every day at St. Pete. So, you know, we'll really get to test the temperature there, what it's like in the cockpit. And, you know, race 1 is going to be a big science project, you know, essentially. I mean, it's going to be up to IndyCar to take all the data that they get from all the drivers and us and what they see during the race. You know, I've already seen sort of how our tear-offs are kind of put on before the race, and sort of what the guys are going to be trying to pull in the pit stop, and you can definitely see them. I mean, the tear-off tabs are really big because you have to get a hold of it. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to add an element to the pit stops. It's going to add, you know, a certain element to the race. You know, if you're starting up front, you're going to be happy as can be. If you start in 22nd, you might be blind by lap 3. I don't know. But it does seem to be something that we're just going to kind of go with it and see what happens still, because you can't necessarily go, you know, take everyone to a test day and run a simulated race, because that just will never happen. But it's interesting. I think there's a lot of questions that will be answered at St. Pete, and most of those questions, though, I think the big questions will be, you know, after the Indy 500, because that's going to be our first oval race, and that'll be, you know, a whole different set of questions. So I'm still, you know, I'm not a big fan of it, but that's just my own personal opinion. But totally happy to drive with it, and it's been better than I thought so far, for sure.
Those tear-offs, are they split down the middle of the screen? So,
yes.
So there's 2 separate pieces that guys will tear off?
Yeah, so they got to tear 2 different pieces, yeah.
Okay.
And I think there's you can get 4 of them on there or something. So yeah, well, at least that's all you want to put on for the race, because it's only going to be like a 2 or 3 stop race depending on what you do.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. There will be more though for Indy, I'm sure. So they're going to have to figure out, you know, putting on more. I don't know how many have been put on before, but you know, Indy, you make six pit stops,
and you gotta wonder maybe how that affects. I mean, adding those additional tear-offs, how that might affect the visibility, and I'm sure some of that we'll figure out with testing and whatnot. But it's an interesting to go into a season with that big of a technical piece that's still a pretty relative unknown, I would say.
Oh, absolutely, and just the weight. I think for sure the balance of the car is one of those things that, you know, people work on it, and you know, the last 2 years the car has been pretty much the same, and you try and develop these setups, but now you add this whole different, you know, element to the setup, and I think it has certainly. I mean, for me, it has changed the car, and not in a great way. Certainly not for my driving style. So I don't, you know, we're definitely looking through a lot of different options to try and, you know, work around the balance that it induces, you know, some of the understeer that it induces in certain places, and some of the braking issues. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. A lot of people will have different battles at different tracks, and you know, you better be able to figure it out faster than others.
I guess it's a good segue into St. Pete, being that that'll be the first race that we actually get to see that aero screen in person, along with a large field. I think 26 cars, if I remember right. One of the largest fields.
26 or 27?
20. I guess it might be 27. I think that's right. Now
with
that
Dragon Speed and Sage with Dreyer. I always keep trying to do the math on this, but I don't really know.
And there's there's all those one or two or three car programs that they have going on out there. It's safe to say it's
at least 26.
It's one of the biggest fields we've had at a 9,500 in several years.
I think it's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think the fact, and even looking at like the Grand Prix of Indianapolis, where there could be like 29 cars or like 28 or 29. I mean, you'll have Spencer Pigot, you'll have Scott McLaughlin. I mean, there's a lot of good things going on for the series, and I think we can be proud of that. I mean, that's a strong field. It's not like there's a bunch of field fillers. I mean, there's a really good group of drivers out there. Which is super cool, and it makes qualifying even more important. It makes getting clear track even more important, because now there's going to be more cars in those groups for qualifying. So yeah, St. Pete is a great place to start the year. I think it's a great race. It's going to be tough for some people. I think some of the smaller teams because of the lack of testing, but it's going to be cool to have everyone out there, and I'm glad teams are making that commitment to start the season at St. Pete and get going.
Mm-hmm. I know that this track in the city has been the spot where IndyCar has gotten underway for the last several years. When you raced at it back in 16 and 17, and even when you've been around the area and not been able to be in a race car, for those of us who have not been there yet, I'll be heading to my first race at St. Pete here later this week. What is the energy and the excitement like, just for the season opener in general, but also for a track and a course that I know a lot of people around the series really, really enjoy? I
think the city does a great job. I mean, I love St. Pete, and I've gone every year since I've raced, and I've gone to so many of the races since like 2010. I won there in the Indy Pro 2000 Championship, whatever it's called now, and that was such a fun win because it was the first one that I did really on an IndyCar weekend, and it was a great experience. And you get to stay right downtown. Most of us do, at least, or most people do. And the restaurants are great. The city really welcomes us. Everyone does a great job there. I think there's a ton of racing series. I was like sports cars all the road to Indy. So there's always something going on, and it sounds like this year as well, they're going to be doing even more with, sort of like this thing on Thursday night, this welcome party deal with, rolling our cars and drivers out to some park for a big introduction type thing, which I think is awesome. So yeah, it's just a great place, great weather, great track. The view is awesome. And it just gets everyone going. And I think the paddock is super cool. The paddock is nice. In the parking garage, it's nice to be in there. And then where the media center is, I think everything just about it makes sense. And I think they do a great job. So I love going to St. Pete.
I know last year, at least, it was a race where Joseph won and then went on to, of course, win the series championship for the second time in his career. How important especially for a full season driver, which you are now, how important is it to get off to a solid start at the first race of the year for you guys?
I think it's so important, only because we actually don't race that much until April. You know what I mean? So we have one race in March. And that's tough to wrap your head around, because then if it goes bad, you sit on that for a few weeks, and then we obviously have some test days. We test at Barber, test at Richmond, after St. Pete, but yeah, it's very important. I think it gets you in a good headspace, but it also might not be. Yeah, your engine might blow up or something might happen. You might get a flat tire or something really random. You get punted off by some gypsy. I don't know. But literally you can come back as well the next race and know that you still have 16 races to fight for trophies and podiums and stuff like that. So it's important, and I know I certainly want to start strong because I haven't started a season in a long time. So yeah, it'll be cool to see how it works out.
As we're recording right now, we're getting some more news from Carlin. Sounds like Felipe Nasr is going to be in the 31 car alongside Max Chilton for at least for the season opener in St. Pete. It doesn't sound like they've announced him for anything else as far as that season goes. But that car is still, up until today, that 31 car was completely vacant. Do you get a sense that some things with Carlin will be coming together from what you know? I mean, we already got Felipe for this first race. How are things progressing over there from what you know and what you can tell us?
Well, I really don't know, honestly. They keep everything pretty close to their chest, which is fine. I think Trevor is an incredible team owner. I think he's a really smart guy, and his wife Stephanie is awesome as well. I really enjoy working with them. And it'll be interesting to see. I think we could see multiple drivers there. Do I know that? No. But they were super strong at the Sebring test. I mean, they were really fast both days. In fact, the fastest. So, that shows that they've done some great work over the off season. Obviously we know how this business works. There has to be funding in place. There has to be, a sponsor or some sort of, entity to help fund that program. Obviously they've got such strong support from Gallagher, but that other car, it's been blank in testing, and I'm sure they'll have something going, obviously, for Felipe. And I think Felipe has done a great job, and he has a great relationship with Carlin as well. He's driven for them before, so it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I don't know. All I know is that I'm going to show up for those oval races, and we're going to try and go get a win for those guys.
Mm-hmm. Just one of the many changes that we've had this IndyCar offseason. We've talked through a couple of them with Jim when we were back on the podcast, I think back in December. But it was only really the tip of the iceberg. You had, at that point, James Hinchcliffe was still out of a car. At that point, I think it looked like to most people that Fernando Alonso would quite possibly end up in an Andretti car for the 500. I mean, there's still a laundry list
there's been a lot.
It's just a laundry list of things that have continued to happen.
Jimmy Johnson's now an IndyCar driver.
That's
apparently.
right.
Yeah,
that's right. Jimmy Johnson. I guess
he was down. It was the funny thing their McLaren was right next to us in Coda, and they had shut the garage doors down, and he was in there doing a seat fit already, or like getting in the car, practicing a bunch of this and that, and I was like, oh, what's going on there? And I asked him before he came up to me before I got in the car, and I was like, "What, are you gonna come do some IndyCar races?" He's like, I think maybe a couple. I was like, "All right, well that's sweet." And I didn't know when or where, but obviously if he's gonna test, I think he really does want to race on a road course and do that. And if he's got a great relationship with those McLaren SPM guys, that's great. And I think it's awesome for the sport. It's awesome for Jimmy, because I'm sure Jimmy's wanted to do that for a while. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on. I mean, I doubt Jimmy's going to be doing IndyCar races this year, but if we have to wait till next year, I think that's fine, because IndyCar, is doing a great job this year. Obviously, Roger's got to, get his feet under him here as the captain of everything, as the world leader of motorsport here, and yeah, there's a lot of cool things. Hinch has got a good ride. Maybe that turns into more. Alonso's back. Alonso probably a lot more confident in his situation now. He's got a great relationship with McLaren. And, I think, what is it now? Someone said that there was up to like 34 entries potentially for the Indy 500. So, we know there's going to be potentially some more. I hope there's going to be some more. It's hard to see where there might be more entries, but you just never know. So we'll see.
I think that 34 includes James Davison, who Bird announced even a couple months ago, if I remember right, that they would make an effort to put him in a car, but it would have to be with a team partnership. So
I assume that'll be with Coyne again. Obviously.
Yes, yeah, they were together last year, if memory serves me right. So that would be your 34th. There's definitely 33 cars, and I guess we're still waiting for that 33rd driver for that number 31 Carlin entry. So we're getting close to getting filled up, and like you mentioned, still don't have anything from Juncos for the race. There still could be another Coyne or another car from Coyne, which certainly could be this partnership with Davison.
There's a lot of possibilities, but it's tough. I haven't really heard much about who's got funding and who's got what going on. But also, the Buell Citroen thing, that was a big surprise, I think, for a lot of people. And obviously that was really good for Spencer. So yeah, I mean, you never know what can pop up. I mean, I hope Juncos comes back. They were obviously such a great story last year, making the 500 and beating out Fernando. So that was, that would be amazing to see them again come back. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see as it all plays out.
I know they only barely even really made it into qualifying and just barely made it into the race last year. It would be a shame to see a team like that was such a Cinderella story not even be able to make an attempt this year. I know Kyle, that was really big for Kyle, really big for their team.
It's just hard. I mean, it's you need $1 million to go racing at Indy, you know what I mean? And you could do it for less, but realistically you need that, and it's hard. So I give him all the credit in the world. Ricardo works really hard at it, and he so badly wants to be out there competing. But it has to be right. You still got to be running a business, and it's hard. So I'm very curious to see who else runs cars, who does what, and see if any NASCAR guys show up. I don't think they will this year, but yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, you've gotten the other opening driver-wise. We haven't heard yet about who will be in the second car for Ryan Reinbold Racing, but Dennis Reinbold has been pretty certain in weeks past that they will definitely have a second car there. So
yeah, that makes sense. I assume it would be JR, but you just never know. I guess whatever happens there happens.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll cycle into some more about the 500. That was certainly a big topic of conversation a couple weeks ago when Roger Penske and his team made some big announcements about IMS, about the 500 in general, and everything that goes on around there in Speedway in the month of May. We can go through at some point and list off all of the things that they plan to do, whether it's infrastructure or with the purse or otherwise around there. But what was either the most exciting or most surprising thing that you heard that was announced out of that press conference a couple weeks ago?
I think everything was just good. I mean, you're adding money to a facility. Your new video boards. I mean, the purse for the Indy 500, I don't think any driver is upset about that at all. More money is fantastic. And hopefully, I think part of that purse helps the teams too, because that increases the leader circle, I think, which is nice, because a lot of that prize money that we see at Indy, that doesn't go to the drivers. So it's, it definitely helps the teams, which is great. But there will be some, obviously, if you're probably winning or finishing in the top 3, I'm sure there'll be a boost in money there, which is really cool. We obviously hope to be receiving some of that money. But yeah, I mean, everything that Roger is doing right now is certainly really cool, and it obviously is very positive. I would, however, like to see like a few more like TV commercials right now, because like our first race is less than a week away, and I have not seen one IndyCar TV commercial or anything other than like on the internet. So that's my only personal concern. I'm like, NASCAR has forced us to watch NASCAR, and their TV ratings are going through the roof right now, which is like great for motorsport, but that's because they've spent money on Barstool and having all these people and getting proper commercials, and I think Barstool has been a huge addition to NASCAR. One of the best things they've done in 20 years. So I think they're working hard at it, and I know we're a lot smaller of an entity, but like I would like to see some more. Like our first race is coming up, and like we can't wait till Wednesday to start putting out commercials. So we'll see. I think we got to work within what we've got. And there's a lot of good stuff happening, and us as drivers, we got to do our jobs to pump out the information that the race is coming. But yeah, I think what Roger's doing is certainly going to help us all.
Mm-hmm. I'll admit I don't think I've seen a commercial either. I guess beyond the Super Bowl they had that one, but they've had that for a couple of years.
Just
yeah,
for
that's right.
And it's and it's a local one too, so that's tough.
Yeah, I will admit I don't watch a ton of local TV on NBC, at least on a regular basis. So maybe there have been some.
I try to pay attention. I don't know, but like usually if there is a TV commercial release, like we'll also see it on the internet.
Oh, I'm sure.
All I've seen is a different breed video, which was really cool. Like the different breed video, love that. What they're doing is awesome. Like my buddy did the music for it, so love that as well. But yeah, it was just it's a really cool. I just want that to be on TV. I want that to be like I don't care what network it is, ESPN or Comedy Central, whatever you're watching. Like, I want to see something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that video.
I see NASCAR everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, that video and that brand campaign was really interesting. That debuted a couple weeks ago. I know they rolled it out with these 6 original drivers, but it sounds like that's going to be something that a lot of different drivers are going to be cycled through and used with throughout the season, from what you understand. Is that right?
Yeah, I think like they took obviously a lot of photos of all of us and they got a lot of content for us at the content day. So I think they do plan to rotate that. But yeah, I mean, they went with the guys who, it makes sense. A couple young guys, a couple legends. So yeah, it's cool to see. And yeah, as they rotate it through, we'll see who gets some camera time. But you obviously got to be doing well in the racing series to be featured. I think
that's true. Well, we'll get to some predictions here for the season.
Everyone loves predictions. I was right last year on a lot of different ones, but we'll see. No. Simon was my dark horse in the championship.
Okay. That's a good one.
He did okay.
Do you remember who you picked in the for the championship?
I don't know. I think I picked Alex, which I'm going to pick again. Alex is definitely going to win the championship, unless I can win the championship. But I think he's got a little bit more of a stable and solid situation. Obviously, I've got a lot to be doing, but I think Alex is going to win. I think again though, it's going to be down to Alex and Joseph. I just think that's it. I think Alex and Joseph. I think Scott is always hard to beat, and now he's got another teammate as well, which is he's going to have more information. I think Rosenquist is going to be really good, like all throughout the year. I think he's going to be really consistently good. But I don't see any like new person coming to challenge. Like maybe Colton. But like Colton is still young. I think Colton's going to do really well. But like I'd give him a couple years to try and fight for a championship. You know what I mean? And if he does, great. But I just think any young guy like that is still has so much to learn and still you never know what can happen. But it's really really hard to bet against Rossi unless having like 6 cars full time or however many that is. Unless that hurts them. And I don't think it will because it's obviously a really good team. Andretti is such a great operation. And having been there, I see how well they operate. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I obviously have to give an opinion because that's, it's a podcast and that's what my opinions are.
I did mine the first time this year, made a full list of 17 race winner predictions. And I knew it would be difficult, but you start going through, that typically the series champion has 4 race wins. The second place person typically has at least 2 or 3, maybe third even has 3. And right there, you're at 10 of the 17 races. So it's really hard to imagine as many guys as you would like to maybe in a perfect world imagine being involved with it. It's hard to imagine 5, 6, even 7 guys that truly seriously in a given season can all challenge for the championship. I think you're right. I think it will likely probably come down to Joseph. I picked Rossi as well. I just think it's Rossi's time. I don't know. I mean, he had a lot of bad luck last year, like just pure bad luck. I think we will see a lot of different race winners. I don't think necessarily you're gonna see one guy winning a ton of races. I think there's gonna be multiple race winners, but obviously because I would like to win a race or at least multiple races. But yeah, it's gonna be cool to see. I think it could be one of the most competitive seasons of IndyCar. It's either gonna be like 3 guys win all the races, or there's gonna be 9 different winners in the first 10 races. I don't know. I certainly would like to see the different winners because that's always fun. Yeah, I think I also did pick your teammate and team owner Ed Carpenter to win the 500. Another one of those that you think kind of like Rossi with the championship. He's going to win one sometime, and you just kind of it's hard to imagine that not ever happening. And every year you go into May thinking Ed Carpenter and anyone driving for Ed Carpenter Racing has a really strong shot at performing well consistently through the entire month.
Yeah, I mean Ed is so good there, and it's cool to be on that team to see how that goes down. And obviously, if I can be fighting Ed for the win at the end of an Indy 500, that would not be too bad. So we're going to give it our best shot there. And I mean, they put 3 cars in the top 4 qualifying last year, I think. So it's pretty insane to think that, all the cars had that much speed. And yeah, I'm pumped to just get there. But thankfully we've got 4 or 5 other races before then to try and get some points on the board and get some trophies on the trophy case before we get to the big one.
Ed would certainly just be a massive, massive fan celebration if he were to win that. I know people would really, on an international level, go crazy if Fernando Alonso happened to win with Aero. You've got Tony Kanaan that could potentially be his last 500. Yep. Elio also obviously back. You've got Joseph, who still hasn't won one, even though he's won 2 series championships. A lot of really...
Yeah, I mean, Joseph's been hunting around there at the Indy 500. I think Joseph is definitely going to be a strong contender for the 500 win. It just seems like, that. Why would that not happen? You know what I mean? But you just never know who's going to have that car. Like Simon last year just had the car. Like it was so fast. Like when you followed him, when you were in front of him, his car just had a little bit more, and that's what you need. And we won't know who that is until we get really through qualifying. So yeah, I'm very curious to see, who ends up with the lucky dog, the lucky horse underneath them. But it's going to be, hopefully one of our cars or one of the Penske cars or even the Ganassi cars. You never know. And obviously Andretti, everyone shows up there really well. So
absolutely,
that'll be good.
Who would you say you made a dark horse pick for the series championship last year? Is there anyone that sticks out to you, kind of outside that core group of 3, 4, 5 guys that have contended through it fairly consistently these last couple of years?
Well, Simon isn't a dark horse anymore. He's just always up there. But like if you really want a true dark horse, I don't know. I mean, maybe Ryan Hunter-Reay again. Like maybe Ryan and Alex continue to like really put their heads together. And Ryan had a lot of bad luck last year too. So it's one of those things that maybe Ryan, maybe Colton as a dark horse. And yeah, I mean, I think rookie of the year. I think Renus is going to get rookie of the year for sure. I think Renus is so fast. So that'll be really interesting to see. It'll be a good rookie of the year battle for sure.
Absolutely. You've got Renus. You've got Alex Palou over at Dale Coyne Racing with Team Go, and then you've got Oliver Askew at Arrow McLaren SP as far as the 3 rookies going full season this year at this point. Everything I've heard, you've obviously gotten to spend a lot more time with Renus than I have, but everything I've heard from different people both around the team and others just around the series in general just always seems like the word fast comes up in every single conversation and very early. What is your initial impression of him been?
Well, I mean, obviously the guy has done a great job. Every time he's been on track, like he does the job, right? He puts in a quick lap time. At COTA, we weren't that great as a team at COTA, and I, obviously that showed in whatever results were going on. But there were a lot of variables there, and that's never going to be something that you're not going to. If you won at COTA, you don't win testing. You know what I mean? So, but again, at Sebring, Sebring was one of those places where. He was quick all day, and he was quick there when the rookies were there. Thankfully both of us were quick for most of the day there in Sebring. But I've always been a driver who takes definitely more time to get to where I want to be. Like technically, I go through a lot on the car to try and get the exact feel that I want out of it to be able to go fast. So I sort of am not expecting to, lead each session, right? I think Renus is probably going to be faster than me in FP1 and maybe FP2. But by the time we get to FP3, like I really want to have the car sorted out. Like we showed up at Portland, qualified in the top 10, but until then I was like 24th, 22nd, 20, but it doesn't matter. It only starts mattering when you get to qualifying. So I think I've been able to prove that over the last year for sure. And then just try and take advantage of it in qualifying. And then I think Renus is going to be I think the only thing for Renus is he's so excited and there's so much going on in his head. It's just a matter of just keeping them all in the straight line. And I think we can do that. Like, I can help him do that. Just be like, hey, man, like, or if something goes bad, it's like, don't worry. Like, you're good. Like, we know you're a talented driver. Like, just keep on trucking. You know what I mean? And I think Ed sees that. Ed definitely likes him a lot. And the team guys like him a lot because he's always happy, always pumped up to be there, to be an IndyCar driver. It's cool to see a driver really appreciate being an IndyCar driver, and I think he does. And he's got a great fan base too, so that'll be really fun to see.
He and Oliver, Askew over at Arrow, have both talked a little bit about this offseason, about their kind of budding friendly rivalry that they had in the Road to Indy program. They were, I think one of those three won each step of the ladder from 17, 18, and then 19. I think those two guys, they might not be necessarily competing for a championship this year, but I think you're starting to see this next wave of drivers with a lot of the series veterans getting to be 37, 38, 39, 40, or older than 40, and I think it's really important to have that next strong crop of really young guys. You've got 6 full-time drivers at 23 or younger this year, and those two fit into that. Yeah. And I think those two guys, if they continue to compete against each other like they did over the last 3 years, I think it could be something really exciting for this sport as we kind of move into this next wave of guys that people get to know about. Oh,
absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of good young guys. You got Kyle Kirkwood as well in Indy Lights, who I think is really, really talented, super, super talented. He's clearly shown that. So I think there's going to be a lot of good guys coming through it as well. Which is important for us, me and other people my age, to keep our rides. So we got to go out there and do our jobs, and I really, really feel ready for it. But yeah, there's a lot of good young guys that we can be pretty excited to see in the future.
We'll switch over to some questions that we got on Twitter.
Yeah, we got some good questions here, so we got to get to those.
Yeah, first one came from Dan Gallagher. Pretty light one. How's the new Tahoe? So did you get a new car?
I do not have my new Tahoe yet. I have Spencer Pigot's Tahoe, which is a little bit, that's awkward. But I had to give my Acura back to Ed Jones in 2016, and I gave my Tahoe back to Laced in 17. So I know how that goes. But I actually get my new Tahoe in 5 days. But it's great. My Subaru is dead in my garage. I let the battery die in it, so I don't really care, which is fine. But yeah, it's amazing. Tahoe is the greatest thing ever. It's so nice to have a car.
So is that how that works? I mean, different teams essentially give you a car to use and drive around. Is that a pretty consistent thing throughout the series?
It's just part of the engine leases. Yeah. Each team gets a certain, with an engine lease, gets a certain amount of cars as well. So it's usually, both full-time drivers. There's a team truck or whatever, and then Ed obviously has one, and usually the team manager or team principal gets one. So it's a nice little program. I mean, it helps keep us on the road, keep us going around, which is nice.
Go through some of these. Some of these we've already hit. So if you don't hear yours, we hopefully answered it earlier in the podcast. We'll get one from Jeff.
We do not want to do this one?
Well, I guess I can
do that one.
Sure, yeah. So we talked a little bit about the aero screen already, but Ozzie Nolan was wanting to ask. Essentially, he heard that at the COTA test that there were some problems that you specifically mentioned with vision with the air screen when the sun was low. Has that problem been rectified from what you've seen?
It's gotten better. Yeah, I switched visors. We actually there's 2 different versions of the aero screen, which I don't know if people really know.
I don't think I even knew that.
There's one with the sort of like the defrosting system, and there's one that doesn't have that, and so I didn't have that at COTA. We didn't have the new version of the aero screen yet with the defrosting in it yet, so that was a little bit different. And I think it has been for the most part rectified, but honestly, we won't ever get to be in a condition like we were in COTA for a long time until we get to the short oval night races, because COTA, the sun was setting. It was early in the year. I mean, the sun was so low in the sky. Sebring, we ran till like 6:30 in the afternoon, and the sun was down, and it definitely wasn't as bad. But yeah, it's just going to be different. So I don't think it's been fully rectified, but we have certainly made some changes that have helped.
Jeff Cerneski was wanting to know which road course, Connor, are you most excited to go to for this year?
Honestly, I'd say top 3 are Detroit because I always go well there, St. Pete, and probably Road America. Really like Road America a lot. Qualified really well there my first year. So those 3 places are probably the top 3. And then other than that, I mean, Toronto has been a crazy bad luck one for me, but like I've qualified well there. So like I really want to get back there as well. But I always like to say that there's really not many tracks that I don't look forward to going to. I mean, Barber I don't like as at all. So like I'm not upset about that, but everywhere else I'm pretty excited about getting there for sure. And Portland I really would like to actually race there this year. That would be really fun.
I can imagine so. Chris Bishop at CR Bishop. First off, wants to know if Connor will be giving his locks again this year on the podcast. I guess I'll leave that
locks.
to you.
Yeah, I don't know. I think every week we can sort of see. Like, I don't know who to pick for St. Pete. Let me tell you that. I'd like to say that you can count on me and Renus for a decent result because our cars seem to be pretty solid at Sebring, and usually Sebring translates somewhat to St. Pete. But who knows? So yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be giving you who I think will be good. And then what road and street course am I looking forward to most? Detroit, that was a good suggestion. But yeah, as I just mentioned, I think Detroit, Road America, Toronto, St. Pete. I mean, I love Long Beach. I've struggled at Long Beach, but like I won there in Indy Lights, but in IndyCar I haven't been able to find the exact right tool to be successful there. So we'll see. And then what rookie newbie is the most fearful of experience-wise, reputation-wise? Give us the goods on Sebastian at Foyt. Rookie-wise, I think Renus is going to be the most impressive rookie. I really do. I mean, I think there's good rookies. I mean, technically, Pato's sort of a rookie still, too. He's a young guy. I mean, he hasn't done a full season yet. And Pato's been quick every now and then. But I think Renus is going to surprise a lot of people. I think he's going to be really, just masterfully quick at times. And yeah, we'll see. And then Sebastian at Foyt, that's going to be tough. I think he's been really fast in testing. And you know what? Those guys have done a good job at putting some people there. Again, they got my engineer back, who I worked with there. Mike, he was with Jack Harvey last year. And Jack Harvey obviously went really well last year. Was on the podium and was in a position for a podium in Portland as well. So they've got some good people back there, and I think Sebastian is a good leader for those guys. But obviously he's not going to be there full time. So, it'll be interesting to see. I think he's going to be good at St. Pete, obviously.
I think that's one of those teams that it'd be really interesting to see how they perform this year. There's certainly there's a lot of reason to think some positive things will finally work out there, but with so many teams making changes, it's really kind of hard to know in a lot of ways.
It's going to be interesting for sure.
All right, let's get to Chris Bishop had another one. Who are you competing against the most this weekend? Renus, the field, or your own expectations?
I don't know. I mean, you just want to beat everyone. Obviously, that sort of goes without saying. But I just I want to be in the hunt. You want to be finishing in the top 10. I think finishing in the top 10 for us would be huge for the first race. But I do think I can go quite well at St. Pete. So I've led laps before there. We were in a really good position my rookie year there until we got debris in our side pod, which made us pit for like an extra time. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely, obviously you got to beat your teammate. It's important to beat your teammate. But realistically, just want to get into the feel of things, get back into road course racing, and get back into get to work with these guys in the pits and just go from there. It's hard to set expectations because you want to be the best, but I also think that we got to appreciate what we're doing out there, and if we finish in the top 10, we got to really appreciate that and kind of keep that momentum going.
Sure. Tony Moss, 31, the mayor of Moose Town, wants to know, Connor, what piece of advice from your father did you choose not to listen to that actually worked in your favor, if there is anything? And then he, of course, says best of luck this year.
That's a really good question. There are a couple things that I think, we're a little different, or are a little different. But from my dad's day compared to my day now, I mean, he said a lot of really smart things to me and a lot of things that I do appreciate. I think for the most part, times have changed a lot when it comes to the internet and and certain, like if you have people at, the races, friends or family or whatever, I think some of that, I like, he told me 2 days ago, he's like, don't invite anyone to St. Pete. And I was like, why? Like that, like, I don't need to not have people there to be able to focus on my job. So I don't know, but that's clearly something that, that he feels strongly about. And sometimes you need people there to support you as well. I like having people that are around and that are going to be, having a great time being there, supporting us. So yeah, there's some interesting things, that go on, but for the most part, he says a lot of good stuff.
Another one from Matt Klempa, a little bit more about St. Pete. Conor, where do you expect to finish this weekend, and what is your favorite part of St. Pete?
My favorite part of St. Pete is the back section of the track, like turn 6, 7, 8, 9. That section is really fun. It's a good rhythm. But the favorite part of the city, I think, are the restaurants. There's a lot of really good food there, like really, really good food, that you can kind of usually get into. It's always a busy time, but usually you can get into places. And yeah, I mean, where I expect to finish, I don't know. We just want to do the best we can.
I'll let you take this one from Alan Kraler, about your Air Force sponsorship.
Indyal. So, yeah, he says, Conor, is your Air Force sponsorship competing for money with what they also do in NASCAR or separate budgets and targets? So, basically how that works, I don't know how much I can say, but realistically, they have to be involved in NASCAR if they are also involved in IndyCar. It's kind of like it's I don't know if it's the same budget, but it's definitely sort of, you have to have both right now. You can't have just one or the other. The Air Force were able to obviously, support us in an even greater fashion this year, but that's because we got the return on investment that they want. We were able to show that what they invested in us last year was worth what they invested, and so when you see that, you're like, well, maybe it's if we invest more, we'll actually get more out of it as well. So that's the type of situation that happens there, and it's obviously really cool to see the NASCAR out there and see Bubba Wallace doing his thing. But yes, it is very much sort of a team effort. They were thinking about doing sort of a die-cast package as well this year with both Bubba's car and my car together, like in a package, which would be kind of cool, I think, for fans. But yeah, the Air Force do see a lot of positive return on what they're getting out of the IndyCar program, and that's our job to keep that going for next year or for this year.
That's good to hear. Phil Whitwer at
Phil Drazzy.
I
don't know how you say that.
Yeah, I think that's it. Says, I know Conor talked a lot last year about not getting simulator time because of his situation. How beneficial is that simulator time, and what can the driver or even possibly the team learn from it? I know when I saw you last, we were leaving the Speaker Series event at IMS Museum. You were heading to do a simulator test there and back in one day. I guess that's a good way to lead into that. What can you get out of that, or what have you gotten out of that so far this offseason?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the simulator stuff, I was already in the simulator before we even announced the deal was done. I was in the simulator in November for 2 days. It was in December for a day, January for 2 days, I think February for at least 2 or 3 days. So we've done a lot of simulator days already, like at least 6 or 7. And we have one again, before we get to April. So I think it is helpful, but however, now being in it for a lot of time, and then I also go with Renus, and certain drivers have a better feel for video games than others. And I don't have as good of a feel for video, and I never have. Like, anytime it comes down to a racing game, like, racing games I can do okay at, whether it's Forza Motorsport or whether it's iRacing, but like there's something about that like I have to feel it in the seat of my pants. Like I have to feel it through my butt, essentially, and I don't feel that in a simulator. So it does help us for a few development items. There are some items that we tested at Sebring that purely on the simulator felt good. So I think there are things that we can use, and to be able to have access to the simulator as much as we will this year, it can't hurt us, that's for sure. However, is it frustrating going there with my teammates sometimes? Yes, because he's a 19-year-old and he plays a lot better racing games than I do. But I just, it's a totally different style, and sometimes you just got to drive to what the simulator wants, as long as you can kind of help feel what changes, work in certain corners. And I do think there are things that we can take from it. Yes.
Sure. Greg Leby at G Leby asks, how tough was it to sell Ed and or Carlin to let you run these oval races?
It was a conversation that Ed had to have with a lot of his partners in the team, obviously, because it's a big team effort here. I mean, it's not just Ed and Tim Broyles, our team manager. It's everyone. It's everyone who supports the team. The Air Force had to be cool with it as well, because obviously, I'm going to be in a Gallagher car. And yeah, everyone ended up, thinking that, hey, we want to be here for a full-time season. I want to be here for, competing for a championship and competing for wins every weekend. And so if this, everyone's been pretty supportive, and that means a lot to me, because it means that they want to see me do well, and they want to see me continue my career trajectory, which has been thankfully going upwards. So yeah, it was an odd conversation at first, but Ed's pretty cool.
And that's a good lead into our last one from Philip Gaynor at pgaynor14. Does it make it easier going between teams because they're both at Team Chevy, and that the Carlin Racing races are all ovals after Indy, so the data is separated between the two disciplines?
Yeah, I mean, it does. It had to have been a Chevy team for sure if Ed was going to let it happen. And obviously, with Carlin, it fits well because I did do the races with them last year. So, we already have some data from last year. I know what I felt in the car last year, and I know that they've been working off of, what me and what Max and what Charlie, and whoever else drove the cars last year, said. So clearly they were really fast at Sebring, so that means that they've been working really hard, and I think Carlin's in a great place for next year, and that's why it's going to be exciting to I so badly wanted to win Gateway for them last year, and I so badly top 3 races I'm looking forward to, always Indy 500, St. Pete because it starts the year, but Gateway I want to win so bad, and I know that I've gone well there in the past. So that'll be exciting to get back there, because I know, we could even improve on what we had last year, and what we had last year was pretty darn good. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, that's maybe a good place to wrap up our podcast for this preview on the Grand Prix in St. Petersburg happening here. I believe Green Flag is on Sunday at 3:30.
Yes,
it should
indeed.
be on NBC Sports Network.
If you're going to be there, we got public drivers meetings and stuff now, so come
That's
hang
right.
out. It's going to be interesting.
That's right.
Don't get coronavirus, but still come and say hello to us.
Yeah, we certainly hope we're talking here on Tuesday just afternoon. Certainly hope this race still goes off without a hitch. Certainly sounds like it will at this point, but we will, I guess, see over these next couple of days if that changes in any way. But for Conor Daly, I'm Nathan Brown with the Indianapolis Star. Thanks for listening, and look forward to getting it together again, and break down everything that happens at St. Pete, and look forward to Barber here in a couple weeks.
Oh, yes.